stream. We go every Friday live, 12 p.m. Mountain Time. You can catch us on our Facebook group, on our YouTube channel, Relational Wisdom School. And we're here to chat everything about relationships, right? Getting resourced, fully resourced back to self, source, and others. What's alive in you today?
What's alive in me? I don't know. A buzzing energy. Yeah, excited to visit some friends this afternoon. And really enthralled with what we're talking about today, combining positive intelligence, IFS, the knowledge of attachment styles from some of the variety of teachers that we know. It's just starting to make sense of it in a way that's makes it more confident to relate to all sorts of people. So we feel safe going into different environments and recognizing that people don't actually mean harm. They're just people. Yeah. Anyways, how about you?
What's alive?
What's alive in you today? Right.
Yeah.
I'm feeling playful as well.
Yeah, I see that. Awesome. I celebrate that. That playfulness brings some joy into my being, brings some ease, have an underlying kind of slight irritation around overwhelm of things to do, and just kind of moving through a cold that I'm experiencing. So there's this like judgment of not being 100% and what that means. I'm noticing a sensation on my head, a little pressure on there. And my sinuses are blocked as well. So yeah. Overall, grateful to be alive, grateful for this body. I love my body. And I'm excited for this conversation.
All right, let's get into it.
Yeah. So what are we talking about today?
Well, there's a lot of talk about attachment styles, but there's a lot of different arenas that I'd love to tie together, including internal family systems is quite popular. Hello. What Inside Out is, what the saboteurs and positive intelligence is, because they're being used in bigger environments, in businesses, as well as in relationships. And I think it's useful, like, to tie the thread of them all together. At least for me, it is. Yeah, for me, it's exciting. So I'm excited to tie them all together.
Hey, Zayden, welcome. I'm glad, you're here. Thanks for announcing your arrival. Yeah, just making sense of like how to relate, like I can find myself beating myself up for like, why do I keep doing the same thing over and over again, or sabotaging myself, or attracting the same type of relationships that cause me a lot of drama, stress, tension, and it comes a point in time where I'm like down the road in my relationship, I'm like, I realize, oh my God, I'm attracting the same relationship that my parents had. Right? There's some patterns, right? Like, how come I'm acting the way I'm acting, like I'm around my mom, or I'm seeing how my mom and dad relate. It's like, it seems like I'm doing that right now with my partner. You ever find that?
Well, what's even worse is blaming the other person and not realizing it's what we're doing, that we're responding in the same way. But yeah, isn't that interesting? Automated patterns, protective patterns.
Yeah. So it's all shining a light on it to make sense of it, not pathologizing myself or labeling myself, judging myself, or being broken. No, it's all about creating awareness of these patterns that are logged into my sense of being, my nervous system, my body, my beliefs, my paradigms. There's so many layers here, right? And how can I just put it all on the table so that I can see it coming and then choose a different path, right? A different path that creates more ease, more peace, more harmony, more love, more intimacy. I think everybody wants that. More, let's say, closeness, and also more space to honor both closeness and space. Have both.
Yep.
So what
So,
do we?
what have you understood as your attachment style? I know you've worked
Yeah.
in the realm of positive intelligence and saboteurs,
Yep.
and our colleague in the Relational Wisdom School, Naomi, does IFS, internal family systems and protective parts. So, this is
Mhm.
going to be a fun discussion.
Totally. Totally. Well, I want to first start off with, what I've learned is um, the attachment style is not who you are. It's so easy to say, I'm a conflict avoidant, right? I'm an anxious attachment person. So it's not who you are. Rather, it's a threat detection system, right? And it's how I relate to threat and how do I gain safety. So the realization of, okay, first of all, if it's a threat detection system, then all I need to be aware of is what's the type of threat that I'm reacting to? And second, what is the strategy that I deploy to take care of that threat? Right. And we call it probably a saboteur strategy. So for me, what's most familiar in my system is that the threat here is conflict. The threat here is pressure. The threat here is intensity. The threat here is rocking the boat. Okay. So what do I do? The strategy I deploy is to avoid, is to go in my room, to create my own space. It's to leave, right? It's to drown myself into work. It's to distract myself through video games, movies, maybe once upon a time, substances, right? Alcohol, certain drugs, maybe vacations too, play,
Mhm.
having so much
Mhm.
fun. Hey, I'm not down all of that. Though it's just a question of how am I using it to distract myself to avoid. So that's me. It's like when I sense a sense of like overwhelm, relational overwhelm and pressure, intensity. It's like, oh, I don't want to bring this up because I don't want to rock the boat. Then I just avoid it.
Mhm. 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 Yep.
Hey, Dizzy. Cool.
Love the
Let's see
name,
what
Dizzy.
you put this down here. Attachment styles are patterns and habits and behaviors, not diagnoses. Exactly. Yes, you're so right. They're behaviors meant to do something, namely to protect. You got it, man. Yeah.
That's right. So you've got your avoider there. There's typically three patterns for people that don't know: avoider, anxious, more me, and then there's disorganized, which employ both the strategies, avoidance and attachment or anxiousness. I really want to introduce the concept from Bill Plotkin. I
Mm,
even have the book right here. So it's called Soul Crafting, actually, because there's attachment styles. IFS says protective parts. Positive intelligence calls them saboteurs. But they're all different languages for the same thing. And essentially, because like you're saying, right, we're deploying protective strategies. What are
mm,
they? Bill Plotkin kind of puts it all together under what he would call the loyal soldier. So we have these loyal soldiers within us, uh, which reflect sort of inner conflict first. Outer conflict reflects what's going on inside of us. That's why they call it internal family systems. And so, this idea of how can we start retiring these protective parts? How do we let them know that they're safe, that we are now
mm.
an adult, and that we don't
The
have to look
war
at
is
other?
over.
The war is over, right? Because if we keep doing the same things, going to war with our guns, we're just going to keep creating more and more war. So, I know for myself, especially in our relationship, because you're avoidant, you run away. And of course, I do the opposite because the opposites attract. I chase. Anxious attachment tends to do that. For me, my threat is abandonment, being left
Mm,
alone to my own devices, not having anyone around, feeling empty. Um, and so my strategies are to organize, control, chase after people. Um, and you know what? That doesn't work. It makes it
yeah.
even worse. The strategies we employ actually backfire.
Right. Does everybody see this? Does anybody see this where the strategies end up further? pushing people away. Because let's say for
Entrenching
me, an
with them.
avoidant, I don't like that pressure. That pressure is a threat to my safety. I've learned for me to be okay, I got to be okay myself. I got to create my own space, right? For Summer being the anxious, she's only okay if I'm okay. So the more she chases, the more I run away. The more I run away, the more she chases.
It's crazy making.
It
Yeah.
makes so
So
much sense.
how do we start interrupting this stuff, right? The first is recognizing, oh, wait a sec. Am I okay? Like, why am I anxious? What's this energy in my body? And as a lot of people might recognize, oh, what is this anxiety? What am I thinking in my head? Oh, he's leaving. What am I going to do? Am I going to be by myself? Whatever the thoughts or the feelings that come up. They're really a mirror, what we call an echo to something much younger. We started employing these strategies as young children. Some of us may know that, or inner children, whatever some people might want to talk about. But there's a presence that we bring to ourselves. Instead of protection, we start to come into presence and go, okay, hang on, I can actually breathe through this anxiety. Panic and anxiety are actually a result of our thoughts about what we think is going on in our body. And we've been really taught to be afraid of what goes in our body with our symptoms and our emotions. We're like, oh no, this is terrible. Make it go away. Let's numb it, avoid it, do all these strange things to it. And so as we start to have presence, I remember a specific time with Andre. There was some kind of we were working on computers, and he got up to his typical avoidant pattern and went for the high heels to leave. And he was at the door at this time in an apartment that I used to work or live in, and he's about to leave. And I checked in with myself somehow. This check-in, this automatic switch starts to happen as we develop more skills. I was like, because I was heading to the door. And some of you watching this, some of you might be anxious. Have you ever blocked a doorway or done something to stop someone from leaving? Actually doing that backfires. But in that moment, as I checked into myself, I checked into myself. Instead of chasing someone else, we call a U-turn. I checked in with myself. I'm like, wait a minute. What's the worst thing that's going to happen here if he leaves? It's no big deal. I'm good. I'm okay. And I just took a breath, because rewiring this means doing the exact opposite of what you usually do. So if you're an avoidant and you tend to chase, you've got to breathe in, not send all those 10,000 texts that you might want to send. Go, wait a sec. Wait, is there actually a threat here? And I remember that moment, I'm like, nah, you know what? I'm kind of done with that old pattern of mine. I'm going to just breathe in and be okay with this. And as I remove that energy out of my body, I distinctly remember Andre's head. Like there was this subtle body
Like, yeah,
language of like,
shift. Yeah. Huh?
yeah, wait a
Yeah,
minute. I
twitch.
just sense the energy in the field here switch, right? Maybe tell what happened for you.
Yeah. I mean, I felt there's something different. Like there wasn't that pressure that you weren't chasing me. You just kind of walked off and left me
Okay.
alone to my own devices, right?
Yeah.
And so in that moment, I was in that space between stimulus and response. Normally, if you were chase, my reactivity would take over pretty quickly and I'm out of there. But in that moment, it kind of was a glitch in the programming. And I
Yeah.
took advantage of that glitch to be like, oh, I got choice. I could choose to
Woo!
leave or I could choose to stay. And in that moment, I chose to stay. I chose to rewrite that program in that moment and with support because you shifted within yourself. You did the exact opposite of what you normally would do, giving me the opportunity to do exactly the opposite of what I would normally do as well. Because we know these
Mhm.
saboteur survival strategies, they feed on each other, right? It creates this vicious cycle, this loop that we're playing as if we're recreating our, you know, parental dynamic with mom and dad. And Carlin says, exactly, worked as a kid. That's what we needed to learn. There's nothing wrong with it. They're just protection strategies, like Daisy said. Though as we grow up, we become adults and we want fulfillment. We want meaning. We want deep depth intimacy, or what I call allowing our true selves to flourish, not our false self that we designed to seek approval from our parents, right? Then we need to look at unwiring those patterns. Because, yeah, you can be in a relationship as an adult, replaying these patterns over and over again, but I don't think you'll get the meaning and fulfillment that you want. Deep down, that your soul desires for you to live an authentic life, your true sense of self. And so the path of maturation is now we get to do this together, right? To find ourselves in relationships where, man, can we support each other, being this conscious co-creating partnership to unwire, relearn these patterns. Because what happens in childhood tends to show up as drama when we're adults, right? They tend to keep coming up. It's
It
as if
doesn't tend, it just does. Yeah.
like it's there for resolution,
It is
right?
what it's for.
It's an opportunity to
Yeah.
evolve. These patterns that keep showing up is an opportunity for me to um kind of unlayer and level up from them. Like it's an invitation to grow and heal the generational patterns. And so when I can see this conflict, these patterns as an invitation, as an activation towards evolution,
Mhm.
wow, is that really cool? You know, it brings a lot of awe and wonder and curiosity into and some play, right? And some fun into that. So going
Yes.
back, that moment, switch, chose differently. I decided to stay
Right.
because you created safety within yourself.
Yes. And that's the key. A lot of people are like, well, I don't feel safe. And safety actually doesn't come from outside of ourselves, it comes from within. When we can be
Yes.
activated, and this is where I hate the word conflict. Don't like it. What is conflict? Conflict is an argument, it's a fight. We're going to fight. What if, as Andre said, it's an evolution, it's an activation? Oh, I'm activated. Hmm, there's energy moving here. Interesting. This is where, as an adult, we can come to be that observer and go, oh, there's energy moving in my body. I'm activated. Oh, and wait a sec. Okay. Yep, my protective part's coming up. I'm noticing this pattern within myself. What can I do differently? How can I breathe in? And I wanted to bring up Bill Plotkin today because he does this thing called soul crafting. Because whether you talk about attachment styles, protective parts from IFS, or saboteurs from um, positive intelligence from Shazad Samin, you can kind of put them all together into what we might call a loyal soldier. So that's what Bill Plotkin calls it. And he talks about the 4 things that we need to do in order to consciously interrupt these patterns as they happen. And I know a lot of us, we take a lot of positive thinking and all of these things to try to interrupt these patterns, and they're patterns, and so they will reoccur. And this is what he suggests, because it's the same psychology as actually sending men to war, soldiers to war. It's a survival strategy that I believe we're outgrowing, both on a actual scale of war within ourselves and without. So he says, like soldiers after wartime, our inner loyal soldier finds it very difficult to believe the war of childhood survival is actually over. He or she may intentionally provoke new battles just to prove his point. You ever find yourself just wanting to stay in that pattern just cuz, and it's stubborn? I've done it. I'm like, oh, I don't, eh, I just, I don't know, there's something rewarding about it, right? And so, what do we do? And it's neither possible or advisable, he says, to suppress or get rid of these protective or saboteur parts. Sometimes we're berating ourselves. Why did I do that again? Oh, I texted. I'm too clingy or anxious or whatever we want to berate ourselves as. But he says there's a successful approach the Japanese took when they brought their loyal soldiers home. So the first step, you love them and welcome them home as heroes. Second, you thank them 1,000 times deeply and sincerely for their loyalty, courage, and service. Your little runaway chicken there, you avoidant. Thank you, little chicken.
Yeah, thank you for protecting me. You know,
Yeah.
thank you for your
Got
service.
some fast feet there to get away.
Yep.
3, we tell them gently over and over and over again that the war is in fact over. They find it hard to believe. That's what they call the PTSD, the post-traumatic stress syndrome. We're just reliving it over and over and over again. So we've got to like, no, it's over. However we do that, we get massage, we go to people, we do different kinds of unwinding protocols for our nervous system. And when they're ready, when these protective parts, we don't want to get rid of them, we help them find new societal roles to employ their talents. And this is where we get to look into our creative, authentic self expression. So, yeah, there's a paranoia that soldiers have that the war is not over, whether we're talking about soldiers that are actually gunned and masked up or
Mm.
the inner ones. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It comes from a place of like safety and threat, right? Like when we look at attachment styles, the insecure attachment styles, like anxious, avoidant, disorganized, it's wrapped around threat, right? Threat detection. I'm not safe. While secure is actually oriented towards safety, you know? Is it safe for me to express my needs? Is it safe for me to say no? Is it safe for me to ask for space? Is it safe for me to want to have closeness and express that, right? And so when we talk about the loyal soldier, the soldier is there on guard, right? And this is an invitation for me to be in touch with myself, to go within myself. How it shifted for me in that moment at the apartment was because Summer created safety within her. There was no this energy, this pressure that would elicit my own protection mechanisms. That was absent. So this gave me the opportunity. Maybe I can create safety here. Maybe we can go through this tough time and come out the other side okay, over and over and over again, so that we can build a secure attachment relationship.
Hmm. Yeah. And I want to talk to you because there's a lot of judgment, right? There's triggers, low triggers, high triggers, even toxic, like fights that get what people would call toxic. It's just a pattern magnified. That's it. The pattern can be rewired at any stage or any place in time. And it's the shame that further embeds it. These are very human patterns. They're human. They don't need to be diagnosed or labeled. It's the nervous system that was very intelligent at the time. The nervous system, though, carries that energy with us into adults until it gets reactivated. And this is the gift of relationships, is that it reactivates these patterns for us now to turn our adult selves into what we call a magnetic safe haven. Oh, the war is over. I don't need to use these strategies. And so IFS, inside out, internal family systems, there's family constellations some people have used, are all methods of tapping into that a little bit. The greatest gift is having a relationship to practice things in. You can't
Mhm.
just go to one workshop and go, okay, I've got it. You've got to be able to apply it in real time in an embodied way. And this is why we like to have our groups and courses where we can watch in real time triggers be taken in, watch the energy, and it moves on its own. It's the same as physical symptoms. It can absolutely be done. We have the inner technology to do it. And mentoring and observing others who do it is one of the quickest ways to get it and to know that the war is actually over within our own
Mm.
system. It doesn't need
Mhm.
to be tripwired and triggered every time. We learn how to, um, what's the word? Diffuse it.
Mm. Mm. Yeah. That is the beautiful work, isn't it?
Mhm.
It's deep patterning work, and yeah, can be challenging at times because it's kind of like baked in, right? The wiring is kind of baked in, the programming is kind of baked in, and it's kind of logged in there, lodged in there, and so it's the awareness of creating space, slowing down, knowing when the reactivity coming up, going within, and just gaining that awareness of like, what is this pointing to me? Like, What does it remind me of? What feelings or needs or body sensations are happening? You know, getting more into that space of like becoming an observer of it, right? No, not blended as an IFS talks about being blended with that part, but being able to observe with some curiosity of like, oh, this makes sense. This is where it's coming from. Oh, instead of trying to kill that part of me, it's actually protecting me. Ah, okay. Work on, hey, it's all good. It's safe. Truly, I'm here. And then reorienting, creating that spaciousness with myself to then respond differently. And now when I respond differently, I'm building a new neural pathway, right? I'm building a new muscle to then reorient myself differently in relationships going forward. Yeah, the old way is going to be there still. I still react. Though over time, what we're hoping is that the path of response ability becomes more well grooved, like a freshly paved highway. While the other path of reactivity, nature is taking over, right? You see the grass growing through the concrete, right? Slowly but surely. That's the goal, right? That's the goal. And then we can move towards more of that maturation of, oh yes, I can actually achieve fulfillment, intimacy, be in a relationship where I can just be myself and be accepted for it.
Hmm. Yeah, when we're talking about that, the inner soldier, the bombs, the triggers that go off, and the neural pathways, the wires, we can start observing the wires heating up over time and know how to, ooh, before it goes off, disconnect, unwire,
Yeah.
diffuse that situation. And it is very much like that. As soon as we unhook those wires, there's nothing. Something so big can be diffused into a state of neutrality. It seems
Mm.
weird when we've just kept repeating the same patterns over and over again, when it's just like, oh, all of a sudden it's like, oh, it's not there anymore. There's a bit of an identity crisis to that. It's like, oh, wow, this is new and weird. Maybe I just want to stay with the old pattern because it's familiar.
Yeah. Yeah. And exactly, it's familiar, right? And familiar is also safe too, because it's because
Mm.
I know what to expect. You know, I'm so
Yeah,
used to having these type of relationships that it's familiar to me and it
yeah.
feels safe rather than what's unknown, right? And the stories that come with it. Yeah. And so there's got to be this willingness, right? The willingness to have a different relationship. There's a willingness to, you know what? I'm done being a victim. I know it doesn't serve me. It's not to say that I'm removing the idea that I wasn't victimized. There's times where I was victimized, right? I didn't choose this to happen to me in this physical realm, though I can decide whether or not to be labeled by it, to identify myself by it, which can be quite disempowering. But I can choose to be, you know what? No, I don't want to live that way. It seems very disempowering. I want to be empowered. I want to be optimistic. I want to have intimacy in my relationship. I want to be able to have, you know, good conversations, life-giving conversations, ways where we can fight fairly, not harshly, not World War III, right? And if I do desire that, then all it comes back to is not changing people out there. It's bringing the direction back to myself, back to me. That's it, right? What can I take ownership of? If I feel reactive, okay, what's happening for me? It makes it very simple for me when I can just focus on my own internal reality, gain the insights, express my experience out loud, which then moves this place from telling you what to do, trying to convince you, trying to force you to do something to make me feel better, to more of like, this is what's happening for me. It's vulnerable. It can be scary. It allows people to meet me where I'm at. Becomes an invitation.
It does. Yeah. And as human beings, we want to contribute. It's an absolute universal human need to contribute to the lives of others, to have something meaningful and purposeful in our lives.
Mm.
And we're all curious, haven't any of you ever thought, what's going on in someone's mind? What makes them tick? And it's so much easier when people are willing to volunteer the information. It's not something we've been told or guided to do. And that's why Andre and I start every single stream with, hmm, what's alive in you? It becomes a habit of checking in with oneself. rather than driving ourselves into the slave ground, regurgitating information like we did in school, forcing ourselves, taking painkillers or uppers or coffee to keep us going. We are now more intimately associated with our own nervous system. We take care of it, we honor it, rather than what we've been taught, which is literally to become slaves and soldiers. We're talking about the loyal soldier. So within, so without. On the earth, we've had World War I, World War II, and it appears as though World War III is either happening or on its way. The only way we can shift the world, as I say, I almost use this every single stream, be the change you want to see. As you change yourself inside yourself, just like we had a class like now, we had a couple of women like, wow, my husband seems different all of a sudden. As I do this inner work, I actually be the change and I see the change. It happens instantaneously because people, just like I was at the door with Andre, I take away the pressure and my instinctual, habitual pattern of anxious attachment and pressure, and I pull it back. People feel it immediately. It doesn't take a lot of time. It's immediate, actually. It can shift things really, really quickly.
Yeah. Because I find like when in places of my old self, my false self, a lot of it is like agitation, annoyance, anger, um, shame. Like a lot of it is directed outwards, projected outwards. And so this practice of coming back into myself, discovering where that anger comes from, where that irritation comes from, when I have the vocabulary, knowing I can tie it to my needs, I think get to the place of mourning my needs. Like, oh man, this is what I really want. And then I feel sad. Certain emotions, tender emotions start to appear. The vulnerability starts to appear. The compassion starts to come out. If I give myself that presence, as if we gave that presence to someone that we love, to our kids, to an animal that we love, right? Just that quality of presence shifts things from this like wall to a doorway. There's this tenderness. And when I have that tenderness within myself, there's a sense of relaxation that I've heard myself,
Yeah.
right? It's as if I created my own internal safety within myself. And others around me can feel that. They feel a shift. They feel it's safe to approach me, to connect with me. If I approach them from that place of tenderness, there's an opening. There's like the guard is down, right? There is that, sword and shield coming down. And so that's for me in my experience, the process of cultivating this sense of compassion and grace within myself. And that in turn increases this reverence of who I am, showing up more as my true self. And it just really boils down to self-leadership, taking in a responsibility. And I call it kind of a sort of grief work, right? Grieving what wasn't met within myself. And when I sit with that, hmm, I can find new ways to meet that.
Yeah. Um, a lot of people talk about identity crisis, 40 midlife crisis and all of that stuff. We don't actually need to push ourselves to get there. We can start recognizing sooner and sooner who we are without these false roles, without needing to go into a marriage collapse or a life crisis or even a physical crisis. We can start paying attention to that heat coming down the wires sooner and sooner and start to have some more reverence, some more respect for our bodies and our nervous system. And as men work starts to grow, our feelings. They're the GPS, they're the data, they're the information that allows us to have a fulfilling life, that allows us to connect with others. I mean, why else are we here, really? And so it's worth it to meet those growth edges and um, repeat over and over to ourselves that, yeah, the war is over. I don't need to chase people. When I'm activated, there's that, instead of doing what we normally do outside, to turning to within, to breathing through whatever comes up in our body.
Mhm.
And I have seen horrendous panic attacks, anxiety attacks. Um, it doesn't matter what it is. Emotions move through our body in 30 to 90 seconds as long as we can breathe and stay out of judgment and um, fear. We've been taught to be fearful. It's the biggest um, thing that we need to alter is this space of courage that David Hawkins talk about in the level of consciousness. Courage allows us to feel the fear and do it anyway, to stop our patterns and do the exact opposite so that we can meet each other instead of being divided within ourselves and also in the world. So
Mhm.
I'm pretty
Yeah,
excited.
well said.
Yeah.
I'm also curious to hear, like, what are your attachment styles? What do you most relate to? What have you
Mm.
noticed? Right.
Right. I mean, mostly I'm an anxious attachment, but I think, they say
Well,
anxious, avoidant,
well,
and um disorganized, but I think at different times with different people, depending on other people that we can, sometimes I'm avoidant on occasion. Mostly I'm anxious or have been. I'm not so much anymore. Anything, I'm more neutral overall. Um, but the styles switch depending on circumstances. This is why we can't rely on labels or diagnoses or certain, people will say, oh, here I have this 5-step process. The process is being present in the moment to what's alive and what's activated in me at any given time.
mhm,
Then I can respond from that authentic presence in the moment. And this is something, how many people prescript the conversations they're going to have with their mother or their boyfriend? I think a lot of people used to do it and some people still are. How do we show up in the moment and trust that that's going to bring about the connection, the peace, the wisdom that we really want?
yeah, yeah, and in a relationship, it takes two. Two people to just imagine, right? If you're with someone and they want you to guess what they need, you know, and imagine if they're throwing all these protection strategies through you, and you're the one who needs to hold it or translate it or hear what they're really saying. It's a lot. It's a lot to put one person. And so how can we come in as a partnership that we have each other's back, that we're both willing to catch ourselves, take that self-leadership and own our part in this co-creative experience, Own
It
it.
is a lot easier with more than one person doing it. And
100%.
Patrice Somé wrote in The Spirit of Intimacy, right, how the African tribes used to do it. And they didn't expect one person to hold it. They didn't expect a couple to hold it. It was a tribe. And there were elders that understood fear and division and what happens when that is not transformed or seen. And our culture is blatantly obvious with all of these different people and political, doesn't matter what it is, a political party, a LGBTQ thing, any of these different people who stand for something outside of just I'm a human being creates more division versus what do we have in common? Oh, we all have feelings, we all have needs, we all have energy that runs through our bodies, and why can't we just talk about and express what's alive in us? Because then we get to know what humanness really means. It's that foundational spiritual concept of oneness. And we can be one and still a little bit different. There can be a field of poppies and there could be red and orange and yellow and green ones, but we're still all connected to the same earth with our roots in the same dirt. And it's so funny how we focus on how we're different. Like, let me give myself multiple labels and diagnoses of things and label myself as wrong or different or broken. Maybe none of us are wrong or different or broken in a way that's bad or shameful. And this is where I see a lot of it just breaks my heart. And sometimes, and don't get me wrong, sometimes some labels or diagnoses can be useful in getting to support to understand my nervous system and how it works so that
As
I,
long
I
as I
can
don't
learn to function.
identify myself with it, right?
Yeah, that I am this. Yeah. Um, yeah. I've wanted to connect to different people and because they assume I'm not like them, I'm then separated and it's any separation is what we as a species and a human being is actually finding the most painful thing. And we have these strategies that try to achieve what we want, which is understanding and connection and actual uh, understanding. And all it's doing is creating the exact opposite.
Mm.
It's this ironic thing of the human nature.
Mm. Yeah, it's like being attached to meaning making, meaning that if you
Mm.
don't agree with what I agree with, then you're the enemy.
Hmm.
You know? In order for you to be part of my friend group, we need to believe in the same things. We can have differing opposing views. Rather than, being with each other because we have a shared humanity. Like if I sat in the needs awareness, we both have needs for peace and freedom and respect and consideration. It's kind of going back to accepting each other despite our differences, like, and who knows what's real. Like it's like I love the blind men arguing what the elephant looks like. One's touching the snout, right? And saying it's a snake, and the other one's touching the trunk and it's a tree, and it's not either.
No. So how do you make
It's
that practical? Because I know we're talking in big, expansive concepts and things like that. In your body, how do you make that palpable when you come up with, one of your family members, or how do you tap into yourself without being reactive?
mm. Yeah, I mean, one example is sitting around the dinner table and let's say they're talking about politics or what's going on in the world and expressing their opinions around that, right?
Mhm.
I'm noticing my body body's contracting. It's
Mhm.
not a particular subject I enjoy speaking about or putting my energy in. My default would be to disassociate and disconnect from it. And in a way, it's painful because I so deeply want to connect with them.
Mm.
There's a desire to connect with them on a deeper level in a different way. Though I'm also scared. I'm also feeling scared if I were to engage in this conversation that it might go sideways. It might cause more reactivity within me because, yeah, perhaps I disagree about their beliefs. And now I find myself in a right or wrong conversation. It can happen so quickly, especially
Mhm.
something very polarizing like politics and what's going on in the world. So, my practice is to notice that and maybe get curious. Ask, why is this important to you? Just curious. How would you like to see this unfold? And I think, there's trust of the basic goodness that each individual person has, that they want to desire more peace and more love and more connection. Those needs, though the strategies to go about doing them are different. And that's where I can get lost of the tactics, the strategies, the ideas, the solutions of how to create world peace can differ from people to people. And when I'm stuck at that level debating, that's where conflicts arise. But if I can land
Mhm.
into like the essence of why, let's say my brother and sister care so much about talking about this particular subject, maybe I can tune in into what's truly important for them. What need are they trying to meet through this conversation? So
Yeah.
curiosity, yeah.
Mhm.
And it takes a lot of energy for me to be curious
Mm.
because there's so much of my detection system is to withdraw, to isolate,
Mm.
to not engage. Yeah.
Well, I wonder because I see that polarization is a really big thing, right? in marketing, in politics, everyone wants everyone polarized, as if there's only two answers to everything.
Yeah, it sells.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah, it sells on emotion. Yeah.
Mhm. Particularly negative ones.
Mm. It's
Uh,
intoxicating.
it is, it's addictive, actually. It's another form of addiction. Joe Dispenza talks about that, right? How do we actually unwire and rewire at the basic foundation an addiction that we have to intensity and war and PTSD? It's like we just keep throwing ourselves in there and through our protective patterns. Let's keep doing it. Let's just keep getting addicted to these responses. When is it like, can we actually endure peace in our nervous system? Slowness, calm. I don't think I could when I was younger. Now I certainly can. There's a point where it slows down too much and I don't have enough stimulation for my mind or my body or my being, but I can easily go out and get it. But what makes the nervous system capable of accepting peace? Why is it that we're so addicted to drama, to victimization, to polarization? People want it. They keep recreating the same scenarios over and over.
Yeah. Well, there's an addictive quality that comes with it, right? You know, the cortisol, the adrenaline, the endorphins. You know, yeah, just the dopamine hits. Um, Neurobiology talks about how it's just naturally part of our threat detection system to look out for the negative first as a matter of survival.
I mean, that's one theory, and of course, I like to debate other theories, but because addiction, the root word is dictatorship, means giving away our power to someone or something else. So why would we just always be doing that, giving our power away to someone or someone else as a default? Um, and I don't know if we're wired for. I think we're just as wired for peace and ease as we would be to toxic um, patterns. Because I've chosen that for myself, and I would say I prefer it
I'd
over
say
the toxic ones that I used to choose.
it's the complexity of the human being, right? There's multiple layers that make me up. You know, I can safely say there's a primal version of myself and there's a higher self. And I can't get rid of one or the other. They both exist in me as multiple layers. I'm a multi-layer faceted human being.
Mhm.
You know, take away all the toilet paper, let's say, you know, raise up the gas prices, right? Induce panic, and people can easily resort back to their primal nature
Yeah.
of survival. And so it's all these different levers that can be pushed to invoke certain reactions. Yeah. And so it's becoming aware of that. It's becoming aware of how am I being pushed? What buttons are being pushed here for me? Yeah. And ties it back to attachment styles too, right? In relationships, like what's causing my reactivity? What is a threat? What are my strategies that I deploy to deal with that threat? Having more awareness creates more separation, more choice in the matter.
Mhm. So reminding me of Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning, right? I mean, he was in a war. He
Mm,
was thrown in a big pile of dead bodies of World War concentration camp prisoners, and he came out of it. Not that, there are a lot of stressors in the First World War, huh? The First World, um, that puts a lot of stress on our nervous systems. So how can we identify those stressors and the thoughts that come with them so that we're able to have a nervous system that's um, resilient?
yeah. And it's also this kindness that comes through for me to just
Mm,
acknowledge the complexity that I'm in. Like if I'm
mhm.
in a soup of like propaganda, my food's terrible, My exercise isn't that great. Of course, that can be my responsibility. But what if like I don't have access to that the healthy foods or um, my capacity is low because just responsibilities as a father, a mother, whichever. Just acknowledging, wow, there's a lot of stressors here, right?
Yeah.
Maybe acknowledging that there's some levers being pushed, you know, inflation, gas prices that are being pushed that causes more stress, worldwide. A political leaders going to war and all that stuff. Like, I don't want to go there, but it's like things that are like, wow, you know, I'm impacted by that. We're all impacted by that. And just to like, just to hold that there and be like, yeah, there's a lot to hold. There's a lot to navigate. Not to numb myself, right? Not to push through or shame myself for not being strong enough, but just to name the type of soup that I'm in. And if we localize it, right? Because sometimes when we get so granular, it can be like, oh, what do I do? What we just bring it back home to yourself. Just bring it back home to yourself. What's happening within here? Is there inner conflict, inner turmoil in here? Is there a war going on within here? How am I treating myself? What am I putting into my body? We could start there of how we can cultivate more peace and ease within my own system, create my own inner safety, despite what's going on around me, right? We talk about being the eye in the storm, being the hollow bamboo, just like neutral,
Well,
observant,
I
check
get what
in.
you're saying, but I've also, because I don't want to make the mistake of like, I've had two women recently in the last couple of days talk about how, in childhood, well, be polite, be nice. Anger's not something you need to do with, right? Um, and suppressing authentic emotion, including anger, and then it comes out sideways later.
Yeah, I'm not talking
Um,
about the suppression. Yeah, suppression doesn't serve
no,
anybody.
no, just
Yeah.
want to make that distinction or clarification with that. Um, Having the whole range of emotion to be expressed without saying that one's good or one's bad, but being able to um, acknowledge who we are, that we do have these emotions, that this is our humanness, and that we can hold the intensity and the craziness with just compassion and go, okay, well, here it is. Here it
It
is.
truly is an intense training ground.
It is. It's very intense. It's very, very intense. And diamonds were not made without a lot of pressure.
Mm, right. Sometimes some people do need that push over the edge.
Yes, they do. That hitting the rock bottom, so to speak, the wake up call, the
Yeah,
healing
it's
crisis.
turning up the heat, right? Until someone says, "Ah, I think it's getting super hot in here. Let's take off some," right? To take action, right? Sometimes good is just good enough, right? So it's like that dog just wailing and just, laying down on a nail bed and just wailing, moaning, not doing anything about it because it doesn't hurt enough. And so it's really a global initiation, a self-initiation, the
Great.
pressure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you say global initiation?
Yeah.
Well, I believe that's true.
We're
Yeah.
we're all in it,
Every
man, together.
freaking, yeah, crash of any kind that's kind of orchestrated is really orchestrated, I think, for the human psyche to upgrade and evolve if they're willing to do it.
Evolution. Like Dizzy says, to evolve, to heal generational wounds. Hurt people may hurt people, but healing people heal people.
It is generational wounds. That is it. Retiring all of these soldiers, including the ones that actually go to war. What if everyone is, I'm not using a gun against any man. I don't care where they live, what color skin they are, and how much oil they have. I'm not using my gun in that way to kill another human being. Like, if everybody did that, oh my God, it's a choice.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm.
And the same comes through our verbal weapons. Anything that we cast outside of ourselves, we will always lose power and we will be addicted to the toxicity and the stress and the cortisol. As soon as we turn back inwards, we find peace. That's where the power comes from.
Yeah.
Empowered means the power comes from within. Turning back in.
So I want to ask you as we wrap up here,
Mm,
what's top of mind for you? Like, what's your focus in this here and now of kind of navigating your world, your inner world, your outer world? It could be anything. I'm just curious, and I'm curious myself as well as I ask this question.
what's my primary focus in life? Is that what you're asking?
Well, in this moment, in this very moment, what's most alive in you in regards to your approach, your orientation, how you're walking your path?
Mm. My purpose, my passion, I know what my past life is. I feel I know why I'm here. I'm very confident. And with every person, with every human that crosses my path, it's about connecting at that deep human level. It is so incredibly nourishing. It is the most nourishing thing when I know what someone else is thinking, what someone else is feeling, where their orientation is in space, because it gives me a mirror to my own understanding of either myself or my parents or other people. And then I gain greater confidence of what's really going on planet Earth, not the outside politics and the confusing stuff and all the information that I get bombarded with. When I sit with an actual human being in front of me, that's when the wisdom starts to pour in, and I'm not afraid of them. I'm absorbing who they are. It's like it gives me a window to how benevolent and powerful and magical the universe is. Like we are just a reflection of a divine level of consciousness. That's what's alive in me, and I just eat it and gobble up every day that I can with people who are willing to be more and more vulnerable to what's actually going on inside of them instead of these divisive things. And they're growing up. They're retiring their inner loyal soldiers and their protective parts, and they're making choices differently. And I just and it's happening faster and faster. So yeah, that's what's alive in me. I
Mm.
Yeah. What about
Yeah.
you?
I don't know. For me, it's just cultivating more compassion for
Mm.
myself, kindness for myself and others. Yeah,
Yeah, Dizzy's got a good
being
there.
more peace, being more at peace
Mhm.
with the way things are, an allowance of
Mm.
allowing the Tao, Source Creator, to do its thing, like to move away from resistance and more towards acceptance. Yeah, noticing the reactivity, the tightness, the contraction, the just like ugh, and there's softness, more softness.
Mm.
Just like, okay. Yeah. Allowing in and allowing it to pass on its own time. Yeah.
Is your heart hurting? No, sure.
No,
Tending to your chest.
I'm just touching my heart. Yeah. So what's coming
Mhm.
alive for me. And yeah, peace, a sense of ease as I walk through life. Yeah. With a smile on my face, more joy, playfulness, an element of trickery. Yeah. Spontaneity, creativity,
Yeah.
wonder, more awe, and imagination of the world, beauty,
Mm.
just to witness beauty within myself and others in the world, to see beauty in all of it. And I see there's this
Yeah.
comment here.
Yeah.
The most compassionate people I met have all been through some tremendous struggles. I'm reminded of my English professor who taught me that compassion started with me to suffer with.
Mm.
And the idea of the chrysalis, how to transform, one must go through a period of total destruction and rebirth.
Yeah, the chrysalis. There's
Yeah.
actually a complete disintegration of the caterpillar, and it morphs into something completely new. And it's I believe as a human species, we're undergoing undergoing a massive human consciousness chrysalis where
Yeah.
and people are fighting and wanting to do stuff and having to fix force things. And it's like, nah, it's already underway. Just breathe into the chrysalis and allow yourself to be rebirthed into this new species that no longer chooses war and
Yeah.
is addicted to all of the
Right. Did you say what's that quote? Like it's darkest before the dawn or
oh, the healing crisis, the awakening, the sunset principle. It burns brightest. The sun burns
ah,
brightest just before it goes down below the horizon.
yeah, so the
Yeah.
heat rises. I see it as an analogy of like the more the invitation, the initiation to raising the consciousness into a new earth, the more of the shadow
Comes
arises,
out.
comes
Exactly.
out.
Yeah. And with couples that we work with, we see it, right? Their patterns and they get toxic and they're like, oh, we need to like get divorced or something. No, no, no. It just goes bigger before it actually
Yeah.
dips down. Yeah.
Yeah, it's more in the face, right? It's like
Mhm.
it's seen and then it just pushes back. Yeah. There's something about it that seems like a principle that is ongoing. The sunset principle. Yeah. It's
It
interesting.
is, yeah. It's either
It's like
hidden
as if
or it's
like
just not.
I wanted to break my patterns and I got tested by the universe. So the universe keeps
Well, you have to
testing me,
see the patterns. They have to come out to be seen to
right?
be able to switch them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, well, wonderful.
Mm.
That's I don't know. Seems
Yeah,
like
that's a wrap.
a wrap for today.
Yeah. Until next time, be well.
Yep.
Peace
If
be
you're
upon you.
interested in particularly couples, we have an
Oh, yes.
ultimate relationship event where we talk about these patterns and how we can actually become healing conduits to each other when these patterns emerge to start breaking them down into uh, profound evolution and growth within our lives. So join
Mm.
us. It's on April 20th and 21st if you feel so inclined.
Yeah, reach out to us, DM us, send a message. Yeah. We'll catch you live on our YouTube channel, Vaishnav Wisdom School, and our Facebook group. Till next time.
Dizzy,
Thanks,
it
Dizzy.
was nice to have your comments
Yeah.
today.
And Carlin as well. Bye for now.
Ciao for now.